Hey guys, what is going on? As you can tell by what is going on in the background, we are on the Tier Maker website again, and that can only mean one thing, that we are ranking something here today. We're going to be taking a look at all of the assault rifles in Vanguard Season 2, and we did receive a new one in the Season 2 update in the Battle Pass, and that is the KG-M40. And that is an interesting weapon in this game, and it fits nicely on our list here. Just before we do get into talking about our tier explanations here, make sure you do hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on. I do very much appreciate it, and it really does help me out. Of course, we are still moving towards 6,000 subscribers, and if you could help me achieve that goal, that would be absolutely massive. So let's take a look at our tier explanations here. We start off with the bottom tier, which is the dumpster. Weapons that are in the dumpster tier are typically ones that you do want to avoid for the most part. They're just really bad. Above that is situational tier weapons, and now these are weapons that are only really usable in certain situations. This one's pretty simple to explain. Above that, we do have the pretty good tier. These are sort of middle of the road weapons that are still flawed, but you can definitely get away with using and you'll get decent amounts of kills with. Above that, we have almost meta here. And now these are weapons that are pushing it, but they are slightly held back by something that does sort of make them less powerful than some of the other top tier weapons, which is of course the meta. The red tier, very, very top one. This is basically S tier weapons that you definitely want to be using. These are part of the strongest weapons in the game for the most part. So starting us off here, we do have the AS-44. Now, I do know that this thing does have a relatively fast time to kill once you kit it out. It's very, very effective at killing people. I think it's like sort of one of the faster killing assault rifles. Now, what does hold this back is the fact that it is a little bit more difficult to shoot people with this thing. The recoil is a bit bouncy in my opinion. It does take a little bit more effort than some of the other weapons that we're about to talk about. This is not a bad weapon by any stretch of the imagination. As I said, this does feature one of the fastest TTKs in the game at about 160 to 180 milliseconds, I believe, off the top of my head. Feel free to correct me if those numbers are wrong. But again, it is a little bit more difficult to control in terms of that recoil than some of the other weapons on this list. And when you do get a similar TTK with some of the other assault rifles that we're about to talk about, having one that is just more difficult to use is probably not worth it in the most part. So we're going to put this in the pretty good tier, basically a middle of the road weapon. It's really good at killing people, but it is a little bit more difficult at doing so. The next weapon that we do have here is the Automaton. Now this is one of my favorite assault rifles in the game. If you've been around for the channel for any length of time, you know this is one of my absolute favorite weapons. You throw on the damage barrel, you throw on the larger magazine, and you absolutely shred people. It's not even that inaccurate either. You can really pick people off with this. It is a little bouncy compared to how it is normally, but with the larger magazine, that's to be expected. But again, the TTK on this thing is very, very fast. Gets out to about 160, 180 milliseconds. Again, that's the milestone you do want to be hitting for a very powerful weapon in this game. So I'm going to put this in the meta tier. I believe this is one of the top tier assault rifles in Vanguard in Season 2. Next, we do have the BAR here, which is the Browning automatic rifle. Now, this thing, again, if you've been around with the channel for any length of time, you know this is my absolute favorite weapon in the game. This is like my comfort tool. If I ever just want to go out there and absolutely shred a lobby, man, like even try and go for a V2 rocket just chilling, this is the weapon that I always go with. It is actually very, very easy for you to go on V2 rocket streaks here, mostly because you only have to get 2 shots on a target to be able to get a kill. When you do 68 damage per bullet, all you have to do is just land 2 shots on somebody and they are getting deleted. And really, hitting 2 shots on somebody is a lot easier than hitting 3 or 4 on somebody, even if the TTK is a little slower. So this is one of the best assault rifles going around. If you've not tried this out, this is an absolute monster. Try out the BAR, level this thing up, get that last little ammo unlocked, because it does give you 68 damage per bullet and is absolutely insane. So this is in the meta tier as well. I'm probably going to put this above the Automaton, as I think this is one of the best assault rifles in the game. Next, we do have another absolutely fantastic weapon in the game here, this being the Cooper Carbine. This is essentially like a carbon copy of the Automaton in terms of most statistics here. However, I do think it is a little bit of a better version of the Automaton. It's a little easier to control. This thing is an absolute laser beam, and you get very similar TTK stats when you do compare it to the Automaton. I think this is one of the best assault rifles in the game. Again, this is one of the ones that did get unlocked in the Season 1 Battle Pass, and my opinion of it has not dropped off because it is still absolutely fantastic. So until we see some maybe nerfs for this kind of thing, this is probably always going to be a top tier weapon. So you know where I'm going to put this. I'm going to put this in the meta tier, probably in between these two weapons, maybe something like in between the BAR and maybe between the Automaton. I think that's a good spot for it. Next, we do have the Itra Burst, or the Itra Burst here. Now, this is not really a weapon that I do have a lot of time for. Both weapons typically play out in one of 2 ways. They're either underutilized because they're just not that good, like they're fine, but they're not like broken, or as I said, they are broken and then lots of people use them and you really do notice them. And this is one of the former in terms of that tier. It's a weapon that's fine, like it's not one of the best things in the game, but it's still effective at killing people. I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's an absolutely outstanding weapon though. I think putting it in the situational tier is a little low, and it's not a dumpster tier weapon. But again, I don't think it could push past sort of almost meta into the meta tier, mostly because it is a burst weapon, and unless they're really, really busted, like we have seen in previous previous Call of Duty games like your M16s from, of course, like COD 4, I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of. That was like broken, so lots of people used it, and it was one of the best guns in the game. But because it's not that, I believe it's probably going to go in the pretty good tier. It's like decently effective, but because it is a burst weapon that isn't busted, well, we can put it in the pretty good tier. Next, we do have the NZ41. Now, this is, I believe, a super underrated weapon in this game. You can, in fact, get a 2-shot kill with this thing. All you need to do is get a headshot and then a body shot. Follow up, you do 60 damage with the headshot and 40 damage with the body shot. Easy 2-shot kill. If you've been hit with a 2-shot kill with the NZ41, or you've done it to someone, you understand how immediately fast and absolutely ridiculous it is to get a 2-shot kill with this thing. And then outside of that, it is a little slower in terms of that TTK if you are getting that 3-shot kill. But the draw and the feel of getting those 2-shot kills with this absolute machine is really, really fantastic. I'm going to put this in the almost meta tier just of how fast you kill people. When you do occasionally get those 2-shot kills, you get that headshot and the body shot follow-up, and people are dying here. Then we do have the STG-44, which, as I'm sure many of you may know, at the start of the game was absolutely busted. You could get 2-shot kills with the vital perk in the larger magazine, and it basically made the game unplayable. I mean, we're not there anymore. We're not there anymore, and this thing is been reined in a little bit previously. It's still really good. Like, it's still really easy to control. You can actually end up getting a technical 2-shot kill with, if you do include the fire damage from the incendiary rounds, it's still technically a 2-shot kill, but you do have to let that burn damage play out over, I think it's like 9 damage over 3 seconds, which is not, there's not heaps, but again, still technically a 2-shot kill if you do let that burn damage play out. But again, this is one of the more accurate weapons in the game, very easy to use. Anyone can pick this up straight away and just absolutely delete people. So I'm going to put this in the almost meta tier. If they sort of changed out some of the numbers and the statistics with this thing that could get back into the meta tier, I think it's almost there, but it's a little bit worse than some of the top tier weapons. Next, the Volk is another interesting weapon in this game. It's one of those weapons that is almost there. Like, technically, you can get a 2-shot kill with this as well. If you do include the incendiary rounds, that damage does play out over those few seconds. You technically can get that 2-shot kill. Say, for example, you do get into a gunfight with somebody, they peek out, you shoot them once, and then you miss the rest of your shots, and they duck behind the wall. You're eventually going to deal that 50 damage, and then they peek back out. You shoot them again, and then the burn damage plays out again, and technically you do get a 2-shot kill. It's just that the TTK is a little lackluster when you are getting those 2-shot kills, but I still think this is a pretty good weapon in this game. I think it's an appropriate killing tool. Like, you do get a large magazine with this thing when you do unlock the later magazine, and that's a little bit of fun here. You chuck some incendiary rounds in this thing, you spray people down. It is still a lot of fun. I don't think it's like an almost meta tier. I'm pretty sure it's going to go in the middle of the road weapons. Probably sort of towards the middle of this list, maybe the middle of the pretty good tier. I think it's an appropriate weapon in this game, but I don't think it's one of the best ones. And the last one that we do have here is, of course, the KG-M40, which is, as I mentioned at the start of the video, the newest weapon on our list here. Now, what do I think about this thing? I think it is a relatively slower killing tool compared to some of the better and meta tier weapons on this list. The TTK that you can push this thing is actually like 160 milliseconds, I believe, but does make the weapon very difficult to control, which, when you consider that that is like one of the weapon's main draws, how easy it is to use with that low recoil. Once you do sort of mess around with that for a faster TTK, it sort of becomes not really worth it. It's too difficult to hit shots with this thing. So you can dial back your TTK a little bit to about 200 milliseconds or so, which is slow compared to some of the other better weapons on this list, but it's not actually that slow. It's still killing people very, very quickly. And then you still get that insanely accurate recoil. The iron sights on this thing, when you do unlock like the larger set, are so clean. Especially if you do include one of the barrels that does change them a little bit. They're really, really clean. It's very, very easy to use this thing. It's definitely growing on me as a very effective weapon in this game. Probably not one of my favorites just yet. I probably have to use this a little bit more. But again, this is a very good weapon in this game. I believe it's pushing the meta tier. I don't think it's there because the TTK is a little slower compared to some of the other weapons on this list, but it's almost there because of how accurate it is and how easy it is to use. So I'm going to put this at the top of the almost meta tier just because I think if it did have some damage number tweaks, so maybe they got a buff to this thing a little bit in terms of that damage number, this thing would be up there with some of the better weapons in the game. So we're going to put it at the top of the almost meta tier, above the NZ41. I think it's getting there to the meta tier, and that is going to be our list here today, guys. The new KG-M40 is definitely a good weapon in this game. I'm very much looking forward to making a video on the Whitley for you guys because I think that's pretty good in my opinion. But again, we'll have to wait and see for that one just a little bit. If you did disagree with this list, or even if you did agree with some of the things on this list, make sure you do let me know in the comments. If you haven't already done so as well, make sure you do hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on because I do massively appreciate it and it really does help me out. I love when I get to see our community grow and I get to talk to new people about Call of Duty. That's one of my absolute favorite things in the world. So again, thank you very much for watching this one, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye!